Chris Graham here for Trailblazer RV. We're going to take you through a new RV orientation on this 2018 KZ Connect 303RL. Starting right here at the front of the trailer. Where you get your propane and battery systems. To access the valves for your propane bottles, you can just open up the cover right here on the top of the tanks, where you can lift up to remove the whole cover. Here you've got two 20-pound propane tanks. Both of these are full right now, and an automatic switchover propane regulator. So here you can see the sight glass on this regulator showing red. That shows that the supply bottle is not flowing propane. But if we open that valve, the sight glass turns from red to clear, showing that there's propane flowing. What we recommend is opening the valve on both bottles. And when you open a propane valve, always open it slowly and all the way. As long as both bottles are open, the regulator will pull propane from the supply bottle until it's completely empty, and then it'll switch over and start to pull from the reserve bottle. When that happens, this sight glass will go back to red, and you can switch over your regulator, remove the first bottle to go and refill it without ever shutting down your propane system. Right behind the propane bottles is where you'll find your 12-volt battery. Two leads going to the battery, a red positive and a black negative. This is a flooded wet cell battery, so it does require a little bit of maintenance. We recommend once or twice a year popping these two caps off to expose the 6 cells underneath here. Check the level of fluid in the cells. If it looks a little bit low, especially if you can see metal plates sticking through the cells, you'll want to top that fluid up with some distilled water and put a good charge on the battery. Also recommend removing the battery from the RV for winter storage. Once it is discharged, it can freeze, and if it freezes, it's no good. So take the battery off for winter storage, store it inside somewhere where it's not going to freeze, and if possible, put a trickle charge on the battery once over the course of the off season. Here around the side, in your pass-through storage compartment, where you'll find your power cord. It's a 30 amp power cord, and lots of sites that you visit will have 30 amp power available. For those that don't, we supply the 15 amp park adapter to plug into normal household 15 amp power. Right behind this black panel is where you'll find your water pump and antifreeze siphon line. So you can use this line to pump directly from your jug of antifreeze when you go to winterize the RV. Right next to that is your city water connection and fresh tank fill. So with this one, you can use a garden hose, or preferably one of those white drinking water specific hoses, to gravity fill your fresh water reservoir, your tank. Or you can use that same hose to hook up to the city water connection and use pressurized city water right from the source. If you're going to hook up to your city water connection, we recommend using a water pressure regulator. It's just a little brass piece about that big that goes on the end of your hose, and that'll maintain proper operating pressure in the RV's water system. To drain that freshwater tank, if you draw a line straight down from the fill, you'll find your freshwater tank drain. So just open this valve to drain the water out of the tank. On all 4 corners, you've got these crank down stabilizer jacks. So you'll want to, once you've got the RV parked and relatively close to level, crank these down to be snug with the ground, but you don't want to actually lift the trailer with them. They're not designed to absorb the full weight. So just crank them down to be nice and tight with the ground to stabilize the RV. Right here is where you have your sewer tank drain. So we supply a new 20-foot medium heavy-duty sewer hose. It's stored right now in the rear bumper. When you go to dump your tanks, hook the hose up right here. Other end goes into the ground. And then always dump the larger black valve first. That's your sewer valve. Once that's finished dumping, you can close that valve and open the smaller gray valve to use your sink and shower water to kind of flush the contents through that hose. So there's nothing left in there when you disconnect it. Black first, then gray. When you're dumping your black holding tank, you can also hook a hose up to here preferably a different hose than what you use for your fresh water connection. This is your black tank flush. So if you hook a garden hose up to here, while you have that black valve open, it'll spray out the inside lining of the tank, just kind of wash off the walls of the tank and keep the monitor probes clean and reading more accurately. Right here is where you'll hook up that 30 amp power cord. And right here is your hot water tank. This is a Suburban gas electric hot water tank. So if you're going to be plugged into power and want to run your tank on electricity, you'll have to turn this little black rocker switch to the on position, as it is in now, off, on. And then there's also a second switch inside to run the tank on electricity, and I'll show you that when we get inside. There's also two black reset buttons out here. If you ever overheat the water tank, most often because you start up the tank with no water in it, you may trip these ECOs, and you'll have to come out here and push these to reset them before you can start the hot water tank up again. This is where you'll drain the tank from by pulling this anode rod out. It's a 1 1/16 inch socket, and you can pull that plug out. On the end of the plug is a rod about this long. It's called your sacrificial anode. And the function of the anode rod is to corrode over time to help preserve the inside lining of the tank. So it can get very pitted and corroded looking, but once it's down to the little steel bar just in the center, it does need to be replaced. Depending on the quality of water, typically every 3 to 5 years, you'll need to replace your anode. Before you pull that anode rod out, make sure to use the pressure relief valve to bleed the pressure off of the tank, so that you don't get a hot shower when you pull that plug. Right below that is your furnace exhaust. Only thing to know with this is it does get very hot, so if you've got young kids around the trailer, make sure they know to stay away from that. Here at your running gear, your tires are inflated to 80 psi. It's stamped on the side of the tire 80 psi cold, and we do recommend running it right at 80 psi. We've also torqued your lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. We recommend periodic retorquing of your lug nuts with a towable RV. If you don't have a torque wrench, you can just check them once in a while to make sure they're good and tight. You can also, with this model, pop the center cap off here to expose your Easy Lube axles. So there's a grease zerk underneath here that you can use a grease gun to grease your inner and outer wheel bearings. That does not eliminate the need to repack your wheel bearings, but it does prolong the intervals. So instead of recommending a wheel bearing repack every year, with these, as long as you're greasing them occasionally, you can probably get away with a wheel bearing repack every 3 or 4 years. Here at the back is your outside shower. Pretty simple, hot and cold taps. The shower head will extend up to about that height. On the back of the trailer is where you've got your folding cargo tray. Tray is rated for 250 pounds, and that includes the weight of the tire and rim, so about another 200 pounds worth of weight to go on this rack. It's worth noting with the spare tire that the trailer doesn't come with a jack or a wheel wrench. So you should make sure that you have along with you a wrench that fits the wheel nuts for the trailer, just in case you ever do have to change a tire on the fly. This one has the rear view camera up the top. In order to have a display from your display in the vehicle, you'll have to have your clearance lights turned on. The camera gets its power from the clearance lights. So make sure you have your headlights turned on in order to get a signal from your rear view camera. Here around the camping side of the trailer, it's the Solera Smart Arm Awning. So this awning can be controlled from inside the RV or outside. To control it from outside, you'll have to unlock the control panel by pressing and holding the unlock button until the light comes on. Then you can extend the awning right from here. The awning extends a full 8 feet. You don't have to bring it out the entire 8 feet. You can stop it at any point if there's a tree in the way or another RV or something. And these Solaris Smart Arm awnings also have the ability to add a motion sensor for your awning light and a wind sensor that senses vibration in the awning. This one doesn't have those things yet. So the light can be turned on here with the on-off button. That's just a LED awning strip, LED light strip that runs the length of the awning. And it's also a height adjustable awning. So if you want to tip one corner down, you can just pull down on this lower arm to lower one side to control where the rainwater runs off. Before you bring the awning in, you'll want to put both sides back up to the full height. That'll ensure that the canvas rolls up straight on the roller tube. Your entry step is the AlumaTread step. So to pull this step out, grip underneath with two hands, slide the whole works out, roll the second step, flip the third step. So flip, roll, slide. And follow me inside the RV and go through a few more things. So right here at the entry door, you'll find several switches. A lot of these are light switches. Your main entry lights, your accent lighting inside, and also this is another switch for your outside awning light. You can activate this from inside or from outside at the Smart Arm panel. This is also where we'll operate our slide out rooms. So if we press and hold out on the slide button, the big slide is a flush floor slide, so it sinks down a little as it moves out, and you'll see when it reaches its full extension, it'll sink down again and make a flush transition with the floor. Once you hear a ratcheting sound, you know the slide's all the way out. Just like so. We'll do the same with the second slide. Same slide out mechanism, but the second slide is not a flush floor slide, so it won't sink down at the end like the first slide did, but it will make the same ratcheting sound when it's extended. Just like so. And the third slide is actually in your master bedroom. It's the wardrobe slide here. So same thing, press and hold the out button until the slide's fully extended. When you hear the ratchet sound, you know you're done. There we go. Right above those things is where you'll find your thermostat. So this controls both the heating and cooling systems for the RV. We're not plugged into 110 volt power right now, so we won't get the air conditioner to kick in. But you can use either the air conditioning itself or just the air conditioner fan by setting the system to fan or to cool. As long as it's in automatic, you can set the thermostat and the fan will kick on and off as it needs to. For the furnace, set the system to heat. There is only one fan speed for the furnace, so this switch doesn't do anything in heat mode. And then set the temperature up to where you're comfortable. You'll hear the furnace fan kick in immediately, but it's going to take 15 or 20 seconds before the burner actually lights up, and you'll hear that as the burner ignites. Just like so. So now if we wait a few seconds, we would have warm air blowing through our vents. Once the system comes up to temperature, or you shut it off, the same thing happens only in reverse. The burner for the furnace has gone out immediately, but the fan's going to just run for another 30 seconds, up to a minute, just to go through its cycle. Down at the bottom on the floor here is where we'll find the power converter. So this is the power center for the entire RV. This is where you'll find all of your breakers for your 110 volt circuits and all of your fuses for your 12 volt circuits. You've got primarily 15 amp fuses here with a couple of 40 amp fuses. And we do recommend that you have some spare fuses on hand because it's not uncommon in an RV to blow a fuse. So if you have some spare 15 and 40 amp fuses with you, It won't be a big deal if you need to change one at the campground. The other thing with this power converter, it can make a little bit of a humming or a buzzing sound sometimes. It's perfectly normal. It's just the cooling system for the power converter. Here in the kitchen, you've got your 3-burner stovetop. So the cover just flips up out of the way. And all 3 of these burners can be lit using the piezo sparker. There we go. This is the first thing that we recommend that you do every time you change your propane tanks. Anytime you have your propane system disconnected from the tank, some air can get in the system. So if you come here, open up these 3 burner valves and light each of the 3 burners, you know you've bled the air off the propane system. Then you'll have no problem lighting your automatic appliances will have no problem lighting your fridge, your furnace, and your hot water tank. The only pilot light that you have to worry about in the RV is right underneath here. So to light the pilot, turn the oven knob over to pilot on, push in on that pilot knob, and you'll light the pilot right underneath here, right at the pilot assembly. So once you can see a flame there, keep holding the knob in for 10 or 15 seconds, just so that the flame sensor can heat up, and then turn the oven up to temperature. When you're finished using the oven, you can turn it down to pilot on and just leave the pilot burning, or you can turn it all the way off and just relight the pilot next time you need to use the oven. Your fridge is a Norcold 8 cubic foot automatic gas electric fridge. What we recommend is just turn it over to auto, and most of the time you'll just leave it on the auto setting. If it has electricity available, it will always run on that. In this case it doesn't, so it senses that and it lights the gas. You can override the automatic to only run the fridge on gas. You may want to do this if you're plugged into a weak breaker, you don't want to risk blowing the breaker, or you might find that the fridge actually cools a little faster on gas than it does on electricity. Having said that, it takes several hours to cool a RV fridge down, so we recommend getting it cooling the day before you leave so that it's nice and cold when you load it up with food. These Norcold fridges have a lock on them as well. This lock is to lock the fridge open, not to lock it closed. So you can use the lock to latch the fridge open for winter storage. That way the fridge doesn't get musty over the winter. What else in the kitchen? I think that covers it in the kitchen. Oh, right above my head is your smoke detector. Important to note that the smoke detector has its own 9-volt battery. It's not wired into the RV's electrical system, so you want to test that periodically just by pressing and holding the test button to make sure that the battery is still working. Here at the entertainment center is where your stereo system is. So it's AM, FM, CD, DVD, USB, Bluetooth, and auxiliary. So pretty much any source can run through this. One thing about the stereo that's important to point out is the speakers, zone 1 and 2. 1 being your inside speakers, 2 being your outside speakers. So if you're listening to music late at night or watching The Fast and the Furious or something like that on your TV, make sure that your zone 2 is not turned on, otherwise everybody else in the campground will be listening to whatever you're listening to. Your microwave, pretty self-explanatory. It's a microwave just like in your home, only works on 110 volt power. Microwave, air conditioning, power outlets, and TV are the 4 things that work only on 110 volt power. We talked about the smoke detector. Down here is another safety feature. This is your carbon monoxide / propane detector. So this will do 3 things. It'll alert you to a propane leak which if you had a propane leak, you would almost certainly smell the propane before the alarm would go off. It could alert you to a carbon monoxide situation, or the third thing that it could do is alert you to a low voltage situation on the RV. This is wired into the RV's electrical system, so if your RV battery gets very low, this will chirp just like a smoke detector would when its battery starts to get low. Here in the bathroom, so there are a couple of things to touch on in here. Hi there. Here in the bathroom, there's a couple of things to touch on. This is your monitor panel. So this is where you can check the level of your battery. Right now showing G for good. Your fresh tank, which is completely empty. Black tank, which is completely empty. And gray tank, which is completely empty. This is also where you'll activate your water pump. If you're using water from your fresh water tank. And this is where you'll activate your hot water tank on both propane and electricity. So if you activate your water tank on electricity, remember that there is also that second black rocker switch on the outside of the tank, which will need to be turned on as well. To run the hot water tank on propane, turn the red switch on. DSI fault light comes on, showing that the burner is not currently on. But just like the furnace, if we give that just a second, we'll hear it light up and that light will go out. Just like so. It takes the water tank about 30 minutes to heat from cold all the way up to temperature. And here at the power outlet in the bathroom, this is your GFI power outlet. So just like the outlets in the bathroom of your home, has a test and reset button. Only difference in an RV, this is wired in series with all the rest of your power outlets. So if you trip your GFI power outlet, all your outlets will go dead. If you're ever plugged into power and you can't figure out why you can't get any power from your outlets, come in here, press the reset button, and that should reset the whole system. The RV's sewer system, anytime you're using the RV's sewer system, you'll want to use a good potent toilet chemical. The chemicals available in liquid, powder, or tablet form. We sell all three. Doesn't matter what you use, but when you add chemical to the tank, pour the chemical into the bowl, push halfway down on the foot pedal to fill the bowl with water, and then dump the whole works down into the tank. It's important to put some water down with the chemical into the tank because the water activates it. So anytime you add chemical to the tank, make sure you put some water down with it. You'll want to add chemical immediately after every time you dump your black holding tank. So when you finish dumping your holding tanks, come inside, add some chemical, and then it should be good until the next time you dump your holding tanks. In the bedroom, not a whole lot to cover in here. You've got your second TV here mounted to the wall with these TV brackets. They're removable, so you can slide the TV up out of the bracket and drop it into the bracket on the outside of the trailer as well. Some storage underneath the bed. Baskets on both sides, and just some storage there in the side. And that's probably it. You've got some touch lights on either side of the bed, and charging power outlets down low near on both sides of the bed. I think for the most part that covers it. So hopefully you've learned something about the 2018 Connect 303RL by KZ. If you have any questions, you can always get a hold of us here at Trailblazer, or you can check our website, trailblazerrv.com. Thanks for watching.